It's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Does this guy know how to party or what? Huh? Huh? Oh. Okay. Well, we gotta get going.
It's so crazy to me that Wayne's World came out 30 years ago on February 14th, 1992. I think what I really love about this movie is, like, for me, it was actually the first movie I actually remember renting as a kid. And I actually owe a lot of it to my older sister, you know, because I remember she was really into watching SNL as a kid when I was growing up, and so I remember going to the video store with her in particular and, like, renting it for the first time. And you know, I think that's what's so great about Wayne's World is, like, it has humor that, like, I think anyone can relate to. You know, adults can relate to the humor, kids. It's kind of on that weird cusp where it's not, like, too dirty, but not, like, too... Well, I guess not cheesy is not the right word, because, like, some of the humor in it is kind of cheesy, but, like, it's just very appropriate humor, I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, as most people know, Wayne's World is based off of the famously made skit from Saturday Night Live featuring, you know, you have Dana Carvey, who at the time was arguably the bigger star. Like, I guess apparently originally, Mike Myers, rather, he wanted to have Wayne Campbell just be like a solo act, like solo character or whatever. But I guess, like, SNL talked him into getting Dana Carvey to, like, team up with him, like, would start doing skits on SNL, and, like, you know, he was arguably the biggest, like, or bigger star at the time, so I guess that's what convinced him to do it, which, thank God, because I just don't see Wayne's World as just, like, a one-man show. It's just, like, the chemistry between Dana Carvey and Mike Myers is just, it's just amazing. It's incredible. It's like no one else could do it. I could not picture anyone else doing it. And what's cool about this movie is, you know, you also have the co-star of Rob Lowe. This actually pretty much revived his career, apparently, because, like, I didn't realize until doing, like, the trivia research that there was, like, some sex tape scandal that happened with him, and so I guess that kind of caused a lot of issues with him trying to get work. But so that's pretty cool that, you know, Mike Myers was like, hey, you know what, I want you to be in this movie. And it was directed by Penelope Spheeris, and she has had quite a strange, like, catalog of movies. I mean, she directed, I think what made her more famous was in the 80s when she did, like, you know, Decline of Western Civilization, like, most notably The Metal Years, which is part 2. That features, like, one of my favorite, like, interviews of all time with Chris Holmes from Wasp. I think it's on YouTube, so I would definitely recommend checking it out. And then some of the other movies she's done have been The Little Rascals, which when I looked that up, I was like, what the fuck? That's kind of random. And then you got Black Sheep. And then I'm drawing a blank on some of the other movies she's done, but, you know, I mean, whatever, I'll just add it right now in, like, a subtitle or something. But yeah, Wayne's World is pretty straightforward. It's just about, like, you know, 2 friends who have a public access TV show that's very successful. Which is funny because, like, watching it now, it's like, that's probably the first thing I noticed that's, like, pretty dated about it, because it's like, I feel like if this came out nowadays, it would be basically him, or I feel like it would be more about, like, a famous YouTube star as opposed to someone having, like, a favorite or, like, a popular public access TV show. And it's actually based on some real truth with Mike Myers. Like, I guess apparently, like, I mean, I don't know if this is, like, a real quote of his, but he, like, I read this quote that he was saying, like, oh yeah, you know, I always wanted to have a public access TV show when I was growing up, but I couldn't get around to filling out the forms and stuff. It's like, I couldn't believe he was so lazy to just, like, not want to, like, fill out a few forms, but I get it, that would be kind of annoying. You know, nowadays it would just be all online, so, you know, or just like YouTube, like I said, it'd be like Wayne's World YouTube channel. But yeah, the characters in this movie just look absolutely ridiculous. I mean, aside from Garth Algar's character, I mean, his outfit fucking murders on all of his outfits just crush on every single level. And then you have Wayne. I mean, like, no offense to if you're a lesbian, but Wayne Campbell kind of looks like a lesbian that, you know, fucked a pack of Eggo waffles. And then Garth Algar, he kind of looks like, to me, he looks like toaster strudels that had sex with, like, a pack of Camel Blue cigarettes. And then moving on to Rob Lowe as Benjamin, I mean, he dresses like a senior citizen at Knott's Berry Farm or something. And then, like, He just looks like a corn dog dipped in mustard that had sex with a condom. This was actually my first rewatch of this movie in a long time, at least like 10 years. And you know, within that 10 years, I got around to finally watching Twin Peaks, which my point of that is like, I never noticed that Lara Flynn Boyle is in it as Wayne's ex-girlfriend, like the crazy ex-girlfriend. So I thought that was kind of crazy to like notice that this time around, which I obviously never did before. And I thought it was really cool too, like after doing some research, I guess apparently Tia Carrere, who plays Cassandra, Wayne's love interest, like she actually did all of her own singing, which I thought watching it this time around was actually pretty amazing. You know, like when I watched this movie, you know, as a kid, I always thought her voice was kind of annoying, but you know, after being something of a singer-songwriter myself, but in all seriousness though, I mean, I do think she's got a great voice. I don't know if she's actually playing the bass, but I think she might have had like a solo music career either prior to this movie or even like during or after. But you know, since I did so much research for this movie, obviously that's another thing I'll have to add in the fucking subtitles. That's how unprepared I am for this. Another thing I didn't notice before when watching this in the past is like somehow I completely forgot about the scene where Benjamin takes Wayne and Garth to like a tiki bar, and which like when I saw that I was like, all right, you know, like because you know Benjamin's obviously like a total sleazeball type of character, but it's like, hey, you gotta admit the man has some class and he's got some taste when it comes to bars. You know, at least he didn't take him to some piece of shit chain restaurant like fucking Red Robin or Applebee's. I mean, no offense if you like those places, and no offense if you're the CEO of either one of those places that happens to be watching this video, but you got no atmosphere and you got the Bozo lights on and the food sucks. Yeah, I also never noticed the cameo appearance too from Meatloaf as Tiny the Bouncer when they get to the Gasworks heavy metal bar in the beginning of the movie. So rest in peace to him. Yeah, if you're not familiar with Meatloaf as an actor, I feel like he's most famous for his appearance on the movie Fight Club as Robert Paulson. I found myself laughing more at the side characters this time around, like especially their friend Phil, who for whatever reason, he's just always, like, I can't tell if he's like super hungover every time they see him or if he's just like been drinking all day so he's like blacked out. Because it's like, what's funny about Wayne Campbell's character too is he says in the beginning like, oh, you know, I still live with my parents, which I'll admit is both bogus and sad. So it's like, it's funny that you never see his parents on screen. And it's like, I just wonder, like, what the fuck does Wayne even do for a living? I mean, like, in my opinion, like, my theory is that it's clearly some job that seems to be, like, swing shifts, because it's like, it seems like they're always going out really late, and it's like the show airs pretty late, and they go out afterwards, so, like, maybe Phil works day shift as that, you know, his mechanic job or whatever job he does, like, in that auto shop, and so he just starts drinking right after work, and maybe he gets a buzz going on. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll totally hang out with you and Garth when I'm off work. All right, Phil, but don't get blacked out again. So I don't know. I mean, it's just, I know that they're fictional characters, but I'm just, you know, I'm just trying to be funny, okay? Moving on to trivia, I was surprised to find out that Mike Myers apparently was super hard to work with, and I guess apparently one day on set, like the catering table, he specified that he wanted, like, I can't remember if it was either margarine or like butter, but he wanted one of the two specifically for like his bagel. So when he showed up and they didn't have it, he just fucking flipped the table over, and I guess apparently Penelope Spheeris' daughter was his assistant, and I guess like he was super like needy emotionally, and just he like threatened to quit a bunch of times. Like I guess originally, like moving on to like another part of the trivia, like so it was his idea to get Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen to be played in that famous scene in the beginning with, you know, like where they're riding in the Murphmobile. So I guess originally they wanted to have Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, but you know, Mike Myers was like, no, I'm gonna quit if we don't get Bohemian Rhapsody. So I mean, like, it worked out. I mean, because like Guns N' Roses at the time, they didn't even need the fucking exposure anyways. So it's like, it was great to see that this movie was responsible for like a renaissance of the band Queen. And you know, because I mean, apparently there was like a big decline in popularity, like especially in the States with Queen, like particularly in the 80s. Like I guess like on their last couple of tours, they didn't even like tour in the States. So I think that's pretty cool that, you know, the song ended up going in like the top 10 like Billboard chart after this movie came out. And I mean, that's like, every time I hear that song on the radio or any time like nowadays, I mean, I always associate it with Wayne's World too. It's so hard not to. And I mean, yeah, it's just funny that like, I remember just loving that song so much even as a kid. I mean, yeah, Wayne's World is like, this, God, I lost count as that. I don't even know why I rented that movie so much as a kid. It's like, the amount of times I rented it, I could have probably purchased, or my parents could have purchased like, who knows how many copies. And like, I remember them actually getting mad at me. They're like, don't you ever want to rent something different? And I was like, nah, I don't feel like expanding my horizons. You know, what the fuck? I mean, I was 10 years old. But yeah, it was just fun, you know? I mean, like, I remember the video store I would go to, it had like, you know, VHS display, kind of like what you see here. I was surprised to find out too with, when it came to Alice Cooper's cameo appearance in the movie. Originally, I can't remember if it was either him or Mike Myers. I think it was actually Alice Cooper. He wanted to, or wait, no, Mike Myers, I think, originally wanted to have either School's Out or 18. And I mean, like, you know, I'm not like the biggest Alice Cooper fan, but I think both those songs suck. So I think it's great that I believe it was Alice Cooper's manager that recommended, hey, why don't you do Feed My Frankenstein? It's a newer song. And so, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that song fucking rips way more than I'm 18 or School's Out. Those, I don't know, those songs are just lame in my opinion. Alice Cooper has way better songs too than those. But I think Alice Cooper's cameo part is really funny. You know, I love when he starts going over like, you know, stating all those historical facts about like Milwaukee being an Indian name and how the Native Americans used to trade there or something. And then he says the thing about like, it's the only major American city to elect 3 socialist mayors. And I think it's cool too that he brought some of his like real personality to the part, you know, because apparently he's like a true like historian, history buff in real life, so that's pretty cool. It's funny, I didn't even realize it, but I guess apparently Gary Wright re-recorded the song Dreamweaver, you know, that famous song that plays, you know, every time Wayne sees Cassandra, like, especially when he like sees her for the first time and falls in love with her, which I don't blame him. I mean, like, Cassandra is, oh my gosh. Some of the nitpicks I have with this movie is like, I just find it a little unrealistic that Cassandra would get with someone like Wayne. I mean, I'm sorry. And by the way, that reminds me, the part where like Wayne is like in her loft and like they're like, you know, I don't know if it's post-fucking or pre-fucking, whatever, but it's just, I don't know, it's like, come on, Wayne, it's like, you're how old and you're wearing fucking tighty-whities? It's not even just the tighty-whities, it's like no one needs to see his fucking borderline naked rear, but I mean, I don't know, call me a piece of shit, but that's just my opinion. I mean, sure, Tia Carrere, I don't mind seeing her, but it's like, who the fuck wants to see Mike Myers half naked? I definitely don't. I mean, at least on when he was on Austin Powers, like, it was like a little bit more comedic because of how ridiculous it is, but I don't know, I mean, whatever. Everyone's probably gonna just shit all over me for what I'm saying about him right now, but I don't care. Yeah, and what's funny too is like the part where Mike Myers' character like opens up that door and like, you know, Garth Algar's just like, oh, what are you gonna do with these guys? And he's like, nothing really. I just always wanted to open up the room to people being trained like in a James Bond movie. So I guess apparently he had like the blueprints for the Austin Powers series, like even far back then, and like, you know, which makes sense because, you know, I mean, like he ended up having Rob Lowe on there and everything. It's funny, I guess in real life, in some, I can't remember which guy, I think it was like a mainly European countries, the part where Wayne goes into the guitar shop to like, you know, finally buy that Fender Stratocaster he's been wanting. Apparently in real life they actually had those No Stairway to Heaven signs. And it's just funny because I remember as a kid I was always so confused, like what the fuck does that mean, No Stairway to Heaven? Like what? But you know, of course when I got older I'm like, oh yes, of course, the famous Led Zeppelin song. Which I don't blame guitar shops, at least back then, like, you know, for having signs like that, because they should probably still have it even now. I mean, that would be annoying to just hear people trying to play the same song over and over all day. Yeah, it's funny because after this movie came out, they started to issue Fender Stratocaster Wayne's World guitars, like with the, I guess, like the logo on it. And apparently you could still find them too, used in guitar shops. So that's honestly, even for me, that's something that would capture my interest if I ever found one used at a guitar shop, just, you know, just for the hell of it. What's interesting too is like, I guess, if I remember correctly, the movie Bohemian Rhapsody that came out in 2018, you know, it's funny that Mike Myers ended up playing like one of the guys that was saying like, oh, you can't have the song on the radio because the song's too long. So I think that might have been like a subtle reference to Wayne's World. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny. What's fun about rewatching a movie like this is when you don't realize how many lines you recite from the movie until you actually watch it that you like forgot about. So it's like to the point where it's almost like they're quoting it, but it's you are quoting it because it's from this movie. Like, I guess what I mean by that is like there's a line that Benjamin says like when he's showing them like, you know, the terrace in his apartment. He's like, cost a lot to live this free. So it's
Reappear.
Costs a lot to live this free.
It's like that line is something that I just like completely forgot that I got it from this movie. And then also the part where Benjamin's like assistant Russell, played by, I can't remember his name, but I feel like he was in a lot of movies like in the 90s and like early 2000s, but there's like a part where he starts pointing to like Wayne's crew members saying like, guys, you're my guys.
My guys. You're my guys.
You look like a bag of potato chips, which is funny because then it, you know, once they go to the scene where they're back at the gas works, it shows him eating potato chips. So, hey, he's just eating himself. Flamethrowing outfit category, hands down. I mean, it's a toss-up between Garth and Phil, but I think Phil wins overall. Every single outfit that Phil's wearing is just murdering on all levels. I mean, like, I'm surprised. I think the reason they call it the gas works is because they know Phil's going to go there and he's just wearing he is always going to be wearing the fucking coolest shirts. I mean, like, in the very beginning, you got him wearing like a denim Dan jacket, very much like this, with like a deep purple shirt. And then like in another scene, he's wearing like a really cool like baseball tee Black Sabbath shirt. I don't know, every outfit he's wearing is pretty cool. And I mean, Garth, of course, too. I mean, like, every single t-shirt he wears, I want. And then Wayne, he pretty much just dresses like a fucking cartoon character. But I think that's what's so great about the humor of this movie. It is very cartoonish, which I think is why it can like appeal to such a wide like age range and audience. But yeah, Wayne's World still holds up to this day, I think, in my opinion. All the humor, the characters, the soundtrack, amazing soundtrack. And I think if you're looking for just a good movie to watch that's not too serious, I think Wayne's World is absolutely perfect. Definitely give it a rewatch for the 30-year anniversary.